Isabel, are we also doing this one, the first one? Yeah?
हो यू मेरा फोटो निकालते हो लेकिन भेजते नहीं हो मुझे। अभी नया मिला है बंदा।
Your other copies are in my car. Yeah. Thank you.
Happens. This shit happens. Everything is from that room. That I have all the branches. Okay, here. Give it to the He's there, bro. test, 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 test.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, we met at one meeting. After that, I've not met a lot of people. Yes, yes. I move between Pancham and Margaon.
Hello, hello.
Can you?
Hello.
This is the night. Tino said let's wait for the new one. What? I think
Test, 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 test.
Just now. We are starting immediately. So long as we finish on time. We've been keeping. Welcome, friends. Please take your seats. No more signing right now, please. Yes, we've been keeping time, friends. Goa writers, please take your seats. We've been keeping time throughout the festival. It's not appreciated that it is Goa writers starting late. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Shivranjana and Tino, please join us on stage. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Salil, can I help you? I will help you. Um,
Very good morning, friends. I hope you didn't have dinner last night and breakfast this morning because we are going to deal now with appetite. And we have a number of people here. Goa Writers has come up with this book. And I'm supposed to introduce them, but I don't think I will. I'm going to ask each one of them to introduce himself or herself. Yes, all right, okay? So that saves you a sermon from me. And there we go. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Isabel. Friends, it is with great pleasure and excitement, and as one of the co-editors, with great relief, that I welcome you all to this formal launch of the Goa Writers anthology, a collection of new writing from Goa. I am Tino de Sa, the moderator for this long-awaited session. Appetite, as our editorial note says, is a celebration of hunger, literal and metaphorical, ancestral and imagined. Appetite, the anthology, positions Goa firmly within contemporary Indian literary conversations around sex and politics, creed and belonging, culture and literature. There is a strong sense of pluralism in this anthology. Multiple voices that don't resolve to a single idea of Goa. It shies away from neatly delineated identities and the tourist-centric image of Goa that is marketed as the norm. It moves away from the stereotypical, both the idealized stereotypical and negative. These multiple voices, these contradictions, messiness, if you will, is reflective of Goa writers. The anthology, as you know, is only by has contributions only by members of the Goa Writers group. Goa Writers is this year 20 years old. It was formed to encourage more and better writing from Goa and about Goa. Today, there are
some 100 members of Goa Writers, most of them in Goa, about 80 of them in Goa. But we have members on all 5 continents of the world. Members in America, one of whom is on the stage today. Members even from Africa, Australia, and Europe. There is a reason that we are called Goa Writers and not Goan Writers. Goa Writers membership cuts across community and mother tongues, native places and regions of origin, and embraces all who are serious writers, whether of fiction or non-fiction, poets and playwrights, journalists and publishers, indeed all who love writing and take it seriously, and who are, or at some time have been, resident in Goa and continue with their Goa Connect and care deeply for Goa. Goa Writers reflects the Goa day, its social pluralism, its intellectual liberalism on the one hand, and on the other, a sense of rootedness and passion for Goa's cultural and ecological heritage. Before we have the formal launch of the book by all the contributors, and particularly our celebrity contributors, we have Bhai here, a Jnanpith Award winner, and we have new voices too. But before we have that formal launch, we'll bring to you a brief panel discussion on the theme, An Appetite for Goa and for Writing. The theme was suggested by our project manager, Michelle, who's done, I think, more than anyone to actually get this book out. The theme is wide enough to cover a wide range of views and comments. And we have here Shivranjana Rathore. Shivranjana is a writer, artist, based in Goa. Her practice spans multiple media, books, comics, zines, installations. She is currently working on a project called Sense of Place that uses performance art and existential thought to delve into the experiences of a place. We have our veteran Sheila Jayawant, who is a well-known columnist. She's written columns for 2 newspapers for several years. She's a short story writer, much awarded and greatly anthologized. She is a translator from Marathi into English, and also the other way around. But from Marathi into English. And she has worked in a hotel, a hospital, and a school, she says in that order. And she also says she loves her computer more than she loves her garden, but not, I am sure, more than Shri husband, whom I see in the audience. But Sheila insists that Shri husband is fictional. Anyway, we have Salil Chaudhary, who writes both poetry and short fiction. Salil is, one of those rare people who writes with equal felicity in 2 languages, in English and Hindi. With not just equal felicity, but equal sensitivity in both languages. He lives in Shorao, and he says he is attempting to convert a disused paddy field into a food forest. Again, some appetite connection there. The youngest voice we have here on stage is that of Gail Pinto, who has come all the way from Washington State for this launch. Gail, don't tell us that it's not so. Huh? we, she says that she's a writer of dark fiction set in Goa. And apart from writing, she's also a painter and she likes baking. Somehow or the other, we come back to appetite. Anyway, now what we'll do now is actually start off this discussion. But before we do that, I'd like to invite Shivranjana to speak to you a little, to tell you a little bit more about the anthology itself and the editorial process and, you know, what it meant to her working on this anthology. And after Shivranjana has made these comments to kick off the discussion, then we'll continue from there. Okay? Come.
I was going to ask if I should speak from here.
If there are mics, you can speak from wherever you like.
Hi everyone. I will be very brief because I feel Tino has covered everything about the anthology quite beautifully. I have been in this group for a few years now, and we started with an anthology called Ways of Belonging that was published in 2024. And the way that I saw that people felt a sense of connection with each other, with the group, with writing, with Goa, I think was just very, very infectious. It was very motivating to be in community because writing, as we all know, is necessarily a solitary process. You can't be around people. Like most writers here, I also live in my own cave when I'm working. So I think it's a gift to have a community that's so encouraging. It's a gift to have a community that wants to work together and wants to keep on writing. That was my primary motivation. About the anthology, I think Tino's covered it again, that for me, it disrupts. For me, it's an interruption in the narrative of Goa. Goa has been increasingly commodified. It's been, I mean, people who've grown up here across generations, I think they know that more than me. You know, the way an object making happens, a flattening of a culture happens. I've grown up in Rajasthan, so I have my own desert version of that understanding. And I think for me, with this work, my own work and this anthology, it was really important to not flatten voices, to find a way to hold space and create a container for voices as they exist. So my hope with this anthology really is that whoever reads it gets to pause, gets to switch off from Instagram or any recommendation lists and gets to really understand Goa and meet its people where it is. I think that's all I would say. Maybe as we speak further.
One more question for you.
Yeah.
Shivranjana. You have designed this very attractive cover of. Can you tell us something about it? I mean, what was your inspiration for it?
I mean, the source of the inspiration is Salil's poem. So if you've not read Tu Paula, you have to read it and you have to look at the illustration while you read it. That's a necessary to do. But I think I work across mediums. Charcoal is a medium that is very dear to me, just given its connection with coal and given its connection with land and mining. So for me, the human behind mining, the people who are there, I think of them a lot. And while I was reading Salil's poem, that was essentially his request at first that we need somebody to illustrate this poem. So if you read this poem, there was this character that existed in my mind. I also thought of, somebody asked me that you do draw a lot of non-binary or femme-presenting characters. Why do you have a male character suddenly in your portfolio? But for me, I think there was necessarily a certain gaze that I wanted to talk about when we again talk about the body, when we talk about a place and its people. And it has had a lot of interesting responses and reactions from people. So I will shut up here. I would prefer that you tell me what you felt when you saw the illustration. I think that will do its job. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Shivranjana. Yes. Sheila, as someone who has, at least from this panel, lived the longest in Goa.
The longest on planet Earth.
No, I don't think so. No. Let me pose this question to you. You know, there are multiple debates ongoing in Goa on issues such as environment, identity, land ownership, migration. Now, do you think that writers need necessarily address these issues directly or indirectly if their writing is to be recognized as relevant, or is it not necessary? And if so, how do you navigate writing that is socially attentive without being didactic or preachy?
In some way, you have to be preachy. You have to, if you're passing a message to somebody, it has to be direct. You can't always camouflage it in sarcasm or humor or something. Sometimes you have to be direct. But when it comes to stories in poetry, you put it in a different image, you put it in a different form, and hopefully the point gets across without hurting someone. For example, if you see I mean, as a writer, I won't really write it down, but say if I see a car with DL or HR number plate meet with an accident, I will assume that the driver has been driving badly. And that is something we can put in a story form, to change that perspective, that somebody with a GA or an MH number plate can also be driving badly. So there, that directness can be converted into a story or a humor column and make it such that, well, human beings can have accidents and be bad drivers irrespective of their number plate. So if you're asking me how writers can help in bringing about a different way of thinking, this is how.
So tell me, Sheila, are you comfortable with ambiguity at the end of a short story, or are you anxious about being misunderstood and therefore think that, I'm talking now about you and your writing. What is your opinion? Or do you think that, ambiguity is fine, it makes the reader think, or are you anxious that you may be misunderstood and so you'd rather explain?
So I'll come. Is it okay if I talk about this story?
Please, absolutely,
yeah, okay.
Do that.
So I used to work in a hospital, and once a small 5 or 6 year old girl was admitted, and she had undergone female genital mutilation with a small razor blade without anesthesia. I hope all of you are wincing because it was extremely painful. And then I learned that her mother, grandmothers, aunts, cousins, everybody had gone through that. Why? Because in adulthood, she should not enjoy any sensual pleasure. Now, somewhere I wanted to write a story on that, but I'm not made to write sad stories. So then, when this appetite thing happened, I decided, okay, I will write about females having sex. And what came to mind were various things. For example, there was, and why I'm saying it is because one of the editors said, you wrote a very bold story. It was not bold, there were many real instances which went into it. And so, the reading of that story was very different. Ambiguity, what I thought I was writing and what the reader perceived were not matching. Okay, so I start my story by saying, there's a mother who tells her daughter, whatever he does to you, this is on the wedding night, don't scream. This is a real quote. And she tells her husband that, who happened to be a colleague of my superior, of my husband's, and apparently that husband told her that, I mean, you can scream if you like, but, okay. So then there were various other instances. One was a colleague of mine who, I mean, there are various instances, but largely there was a group of nurses who was talking once, in the nursing station in the ward. And are there any nurses here? Okay. So nurses, unlike doctors come and go and they prescribe, but nurses actually handle patients. So their relationship with patients is very different. And their relationship with their husbands, with other people, with the body functions is also very different because they're very down to earth and practical people. So this group of nurses was discussing their own personal married lives. The lack of space, the lack of time, the lack of privacy, lot of these things. So all these things were put together in this story. There are various real incidents which have been woven into this story. So I looked at it very differently, and the reader looked at it very differently. So somewhere it is ambiguous. And they wanted to, that's why I wanted that last para to be kept, because that first child where the mother told me that no, we don't encourage sensual pleasures for women as adults in their culture. And I thought we must have a mother who says, if I have enjoyed it, my daughter should enjoy it too.
Sheila's story is called The Divide. And I'm afraid, I must confess, I am the editor who told her, but in an entirely complimentary way, that her story was very bold. If you haven't read it, you must get a copy of Appetite and read the story. One more thing to all the panelists, and this is not an interview, it is a discussion. Please feel free to come in whenever you want. Just reach out for a mic if you don't have one in your hand and, comment or whatever.
So Tino, I just want to come in because she mentioned number plates, which is the first thing that happens if you're kind of, not driving well or something. People will just look at the number plate of your car. So when we moved here from Noida 15 years ago, and I had a UP number plate. And wherever I would drive, I remember in Pedne or something, they would say, "Aa gaya, UP wala aa gaya." So, and I would just wave out and everything. So, but then again, that's been transformed into a poem in one of the collections called UP Number in Go.
Wonderful. Gail, one of the longest and I think most powerful stories in Appetite is Eucharist. Now, would you say, Gail, that your story at some subliminal level is not so much about appetite as the lack of it, or a kind of a fading faith and the turbulence that this gives rise to? Actually, you have a very interesting line in your story which says that appetite comes from a Latin root that means to seek, to yearn, and not as we understand it, to hunger or to consume. And you even said that actually appetite implies humility. I found that a bit puzzling, but would you like to comment on that and tell our audience something about it?
That's a good question. Most of my short stories are very long. When I was researching for this story, I also didn't know that that's what the root of the word appetite was in Latin. That's what it meant. Sorry.
Yeah, or you can use this mic if you can.
Just closer. Okay. When I was researching the story, I also didn't realize that appetite meant to seek and to yearn. That was something that I happened to come across. And now that you mention it, yes, I think it is a lot about a lack. It is about searching, a very existential searching. I mean, the protagonist of the story is a priest who is slowly losing his faith. And I've interwoven that kind of existential turbulence along with the rise of technology. And to some extent, like in our lives, there is a certain kind of emptiness. And it might be, I don't think it's just in Goa that it happens. It's everywhere. As I think maybe younger people, we feel this more. There is a lack of, certainty in narratives. And I feel that the story that I write and again, as Shivranjana said, it is very open to interpretation. There's like, I can arguably say, I don't know what I was writing about either, because it just kind of came to me. But I feel that it is about the hunger for more of a narrative we can rely on in our lives as youngsters, which we don't really have. Like, we've looked for it in religion, and religion has kind of turned up, it's turned up empty to a large extent. And so there is this hunger to search and to dig up and to ask our parents, to ask other people in society that may know. And maybe you can say appetite is two sides of the same coin. You have fullness and excess, but also a lack. So maybe that might answer your question a little.
Thank you, Gail. Gail, can you tell us, you say you're a writer of dark fiction. For you, how do your stories begin? Now, when I say begin, I don't mean begin on the page. I mean, how do they begin in your mind? And do you just begin writing and then allow yourself to go where it takes you? Or do you have an outline clear in your mind and then you write? Because, and do you think is the process of writing dark fiction different from the process of writing other fiction?
That's also a good question. I'll see if I can answer it
Take the first one first.
In a coherent way. I'm very rambly. I'm a pantser. So in writing terminology, you have two kinds of writers. There are plotters, people who outline the story. I wish I was a plotter. It would have made my life a lot easier. But I am a pantser. I'm someone who... It's more fun, but my gosh, it takes ages sometimes, and you don't know where you're heading. You don't know if the story is going to be completed sometimes. And that's why it's taken me this long to do just a few short stories. But so I'm a pantser, and when I write, I tend to not know where it's going. And it is a lot of fun, and I think for me as well, if I kind of know where the story heads, I lose interest. So while I'm writing it, I'm also discovering it. And it's very rewarding. I do think you can come up with some very interesting and unique stories that way. But it does take a lot of work. So any budding writers in the audience, I'm beginning to learn that I do need to outline a little bit. So yes, outlining is helpful. As for your second question, Tino, I think maybe the dark fiction aspect, being a pantser, yes, I do think you do need to have a little bit of, you do need to have an aspect of discovery there, because you are going pretty deep. When I write, I usually surprise myself with how some of the very disturbing things that just come out. And because I've had a relatively, cush life. It's been a very easy life. And I wonder where this is coming from. But there's always like, you kind of have to dig very deep to find out the stories you need to bring out. And it can be a personal process, but it can also be it can be very tough, because you want to bang your head against the table sometimes and say, none of this is making sense. None of it is making sense. I just want to get the story over and done with. But it's difficult. But I hope that answered.
Well, yes, it does. Thank you. Salil, you write short fiction and poetry, but I think you've published more poetry than fiction.
Yes.
Okay. And your contribution to this anthology is also a poem, a marvelous poem. Tell me in general, what kind of truth do you think a poem can tell especially well, which, say, a short story or a novel can't? If that is the case, what would you like to say on this?
That's a big question. I don't know if I can really answer it that well, but for me, poetry, unlike when I'm writing stories, It's coming from deeper in the unconscious, where I'm almost like much of my work is coming from a kind of a trance space. So, which is, I feel, just channeling a lot more from a deeper, like the unconscious, reading a lot more than when I'm in control, a sort of a control when I'm writing fiction and, looking at things more logically. But in this case, something else is expressing itself through me. That's my prime experience of writing poetry. So in that sense, for me, it's definitely a place of bigger truths, bigger surprises. And I learn a lot more when poetry comes through me. And sometimes I'm surprised in who really is saying these things. I don't know if that makes sense.
Salil, I'm sure everyone's, those who haven't yet bought a copy of the book, they are eager to read your poem, hear your poem, especially because Shivranjana didn't tell us much about her illustration and said, Salil's poem will tell you all about it. So, would you like to read your poem for us, Salil?
Sure.
And then tell us.
Ask a poet to read a poem, and that's the happiest thing to do. That's up to you.
If you already have the book, you can keep it open in front of you.
Right. So this was, it's not the kind of poem I normally write. And this was based on some experiences that were shared with me. So there is some bit of truth in this, Tino. It's called To Paula, name changed, and her mum. Paula, my tongue's my favorite muscle to flex. And not just with you, when I'm having wonderful sex. Paula, often when I ask you all, are you in the mood? I'm really asking you and your mum out for food. Paula, I like the way you dress, and your mother's dressings too. It's strange she'll share her daughter, but not the recipes to her brew. Still, you, me, and your mother, Paula, we make such a good team. Slurping and smacking being our everlasting theme. I'm happiest with you, Paula, when we are cuddling on the beach. Though it's good to know when you're not there, your mum's within reach. Food and sex, I've learned from you, often go together. First, I like to have you, Paula, then the sorpotel of your mother. I thank you and your mum, Paula, for taking care of my tongue. Your talents are unparalleled, and they will not go unsung.
Which part is true?
Post-session.
Shivranjana. Like Gail's story, your story too is set in the future. But Gail's is not science fiction. Yours is. Perhaps the only science fiction piece in the anthology. Can you tell us why you chose to use that genre for the anthology? And do you write, is this your first science fiction piece, or have you written, or do you write a lot of science fiction? Okay.
Thank you for the question. This is technically my first science fiction out in the public eye. I have been experimenting with it. I've also become a fervent consumer of it, so sometimes you also do churn out what you are ingesting. I think for me, Nederia was, it holds many connotations to our realities that we're living through right now. And science fiction is a place where, science fiction and fantasy really is a place where you can use your reality and make of it whatever you desire. You can imagine futures that maybe seem impossible right now. You can imagine futures that feel very much present and oppressive right now. So I think I like the genre for its possibilities, where you're not really separate from reality, but you are. And it depends on the reader's sense of suspension in inhabiting that world. I chose this as a medium in response to appetite for the anthology. Personally, because I think I live in the liminal of existentialism, so I don't know any other way to also do things. For me, the linearity of birth and death as we imagine, as it's constructed and as we are taught, that does not really exist, because I don't think life is ever linear. It's very simplistic to imagine that you're born someday and you'll die someday. It can be, but Nidaria also explores deaths, just for context. So for me, I think it was interesting to imagine what would happen when you die and whether humanity continues to be the way it is right now. And I like a lack of closure in my writing. I like a sense of possibility and also ambiguity, because I think it's fun to play with it and let the reader also imagine where they would want to go. So for me, I think very simply, it was a result of many, many things that probably I had ingested in my time. Like Gail, my process is also very similar. I don't know where I'm going. I know when there's an image in my head, I need to put it out, whether in text or in a visual form. So for me, I was curious about ravenous hunger for life itself. I have worked over the last decade plus on intergenerational trauma and mental health and existence, and all of these things are things that I think about a lot. And I also know a lot of younger folks who are struggling to make meaning, are struggling to understand where this world is headed, and there's a lot of anxiety around it. So I think at the same time, I also see a significantly small percentage of big tech bros dominating narrative, and the kind of hungers that they present on this planet with limited resource without sharing. I think it's something that is absurd at its best, and it's very real. So I think for me, it was just very important to play with that and explore that, and tech also plays a part in the way that I look at the world and how it's embedded. So yeah, I hope that answers it.
You want to say something? Okay.
I'll just interrupt. Both of you said you don't know where you're going. Both of you use the same words. If you don't know where you're going, you can't get lost.
So now, Sheila, my question to you. Your story here is certainly not humorous, but you're known to be a writer with, great sense of humor, especially in your columns, when you comment on things that are happening, and like you did just now. Tell me, I know I've asked you this question before, but I think our audience would be extremely interested in knowing, how do you weave humor? I mean, humor, everyone laughs and thinks it comes easy, but I don't think that it's so easy to write something that's humorous. Or does it come naturally to you? Do you feel, or do you have to work on making your columns funny? How do you do it?
I think it's partly genetic or inherited, and it's partly the environment. The ecosystem allows you to laugh at certain kinds of jokes, and so it kind of perpetuates itself. And why I say it might be inherited, because my cousins, my sister, my mother, we could laugh hysterically at something that other people didn't find funny. So I can't answer that question. No, I don't work too hard. I did not work too hard at my columns. I had a deadline. So by every Friday evening, I had to submit something. And before computers came into our lives, it had to be typed and delivered. So there was some effort required to stick to the deadline, but it came easily. It wasn't really very hard work.
Lucky you. uh, Salil, you write in 2 languages. Have you written about Goa in Hindi?
Actually, I have. Can you hear me?
Use one.
Yeah, I'll use
Use.
She did that. It came to me like that. Yeah. So I have written in Hindi as well. One of my first poems, actually, after coming to Goa, was in Hindi. I don't remember all my poems, so I can't recite it, but it was about the red earth of Goa. Ab mitti nahi hai lal. So, and it goes on from there about the soil and what it does to me, and how I put some soil in my mouth, so just to taste the flavor of this new place that I've come to. So yes, I've written about a few poems in Hindi on Goa. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Do any of the panelists want to say anything more at this stage? Yeah, please, please.
I think I just wanted to add to something that Tino had first spoken of, the writer's responsibility, or what does the writer do in this world that we're living in, and how do we respond to the world. And I think Rakshanda Jalil had spoken at the inaugural quite poignantly around the act of witnessing and the importance of witnessing. I think it's also, I know a lot of, again, I do work with younger writers a lot more. And a lot of the times there seems to be this anxiety around perfecting your fiction to a certain extent, where you're creating a perfect world. Then there's also sometimes this tendency to imagine that I have to go really far away from my reality so that people who I know and who know me don't assume that I'm writing about them. And, you know, like those tensions that exist. I'm sure writers here are all nodding. So that's a shared experience. I think just to, if I can like even try to add to what Rakshanda said, I think it's important for writers to remember that we're also living in the same world. We may be in our own bubbles and in our own caves, but we are inhabiting the same world. And the problems in Goa are not unique to Goa, in the sense that the planet is the same. It's a limited planet, and we're all living in that same planet with limited resources. So I think it's 2026, we have a lot of things. We're living in the world of AI, where some folks, I think, Ranjit Hoscott's style of writing has been asked, to chat GPT, whether you can write like him, So this is the world we are living in, wherein we're being told that the arts are obsolete, or writing is obsolete, but this is precisely when the arts hold a lot of power and importance. So I think the duty of the writer is to continue living a life and continue inhabiting these worlds and continue witnessing, and never really think that your story isn't worth it, because I didn't think that I could write something on death and it would turn into science fiction. So you never know where you go with it. So that's just one thing.
Thank you, Shivranjana. I think we'll tweak things around a little bit. According to our program, we were supposed to have this formal launch and photo op now, and then questions from the audience. But I think it'll be appropriate to have questions now, because, people have spoken. So questions, comments, and then we'll end with that formal release. We're very grateful to Ranjit for actually writing this absolutely marvelous blurb for our book, and he's here. So may I invite you, Ranjit, to say something to set off the audience comments on this. Okay? Something nice.
No, I've actually been fascinated by the conversation among all of you. Tino, when you sent the book to me, I was actually, I have to say, I was blown away by the variety, the diversity of voices, registers, concerns, but also the way in which all the contributors to the anthology are deeply, somehow organically linked to Goa and its problems, but there's a vision that moves out. That too is the form of the future. But I think what struck me also was that the anthology appears to be a preferred form. This seems like it's slightly off topic. But in an age where there's such a competition among voices, among claims and counterclaims, it seems to me that the anthology is a wonderful vehicle to bring these together. So I thought of this volume as a kind of a convention in many ways. And it stands alongside other anthologies over the years which have borne witness to writing in and about Goa. So this is just a very personal response to say that, to me, this is a very important document. It's literary, but there's also a deep politics to it. It's really a question about, I think all of you have asked this question about where are we heading as a species. We may be here in this seemingly small part of the world, but Shivranjana, you said this. It's also a question of scale. The crisis here is the crisis everywhere. There's a granularity to this, but I will prize and cherish this anthology. Thank you all for putting it together.
Thank you, Ranjit. Audience, questions, comments, questions directed at any of the panelists or any of the contributors. If you already have read something, and because there are about 20 of the contributors here of the 33, so you can ask anyone anything or make a comment about whatever you want. Yes, Meru.
I just wanted to ask Salil if you think the cover justifies your poetry, because according to Wikipedia, that is a very vulgar gesture.
It's a raspberry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought of somebody spitting palm. I don't know. That is vulgar. That's another. No, honestly, I agree. That's
It'll sell more.
But in a different way.
As far as I'm concerned, I just loved the illustration when she did it. Yeah. It was really very edgy, and I also loved her style of, the black and white, though I would have liked some red in the tongue. That is what I wanted from the publishers. But I love the cover, and I know that we both talked about it, and I said we will get some extreme reactions, and I'd like to know them. So apparently you have. I don't know if you want to share any of that, but you'll hear more. Okay, but I love the cover, and I think it's really going to be very attractive towards the anthology being picked up. So that's good too.
Yes.
So Ranjana, this question is for you. And this lovely, lovely art you did on the cover. Now, art is an evolution of various iterations until you are happy with the final product. What are the options and variations you had before you arrived at this?
So just for context, in the first two versions, there was a little bit of red that I had played with. At that time, Salil did not like it. Just clearing on the record. I think there were about 3 or 4 versions for sure, but I think when you're working with charcoal, the medium is such, and at least my process is such, wherein when you have like the broad stroke structure of what you want to produce, you keep coming back to it till you're done. And I think for me, this was very cliched, how we see that there's a eureka moment for an artist and they've gotten inspired and they want to make something. Sadly, that was how it was, because that's how moving Salil's poem was for me. So it was a very, like a sudden spark. I saw this character doing exactly this in my mind, and I had to bring him out to life. So I think I sat for easily like 12 hours in the first sitting to work on the first version, because it needed to be done. So yeah, I don't know if that answers it for you.
You just did.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it was going to be the cover.
Yeah. That you know.
Yes.
A very good morning to everyone. My name is Hilary. First of all, it requires a lot of courage to summon up here to speak among the eminent and great personalities here. So, I would really inspire from all of you. I just want to ask you all that in any author would be it would be any author, it would be any novelist, any short story writer. Whenever we write something, we put up everything in it. And for a short period of time, there is a leap. We take a leap. And then after some period of time, we start to write again. But in that leap, how to fill that gap, that in which we think, we ponder, and then we execute, and then we write. But that leap creates an impact on us. That leap is very, it's like a void, which we need to avoid, and that we have to keep filling. I just want to know what you as a novelist, sir, and ma'am, what would you do? Thank you.
I often feel when you have these godmen and swamis and whoever telling you that you should do pranayama and meditation so that you live the moment. You're focused on that moment and nothing else matters. So I think anybody who's creating music or a short story or doing a sketch, like she said, you are just focused and you're living the moment. Nothing else matters. That's what happens.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
In fact, I would actually say that leap, in fact, is the creative process. You get the idea, you want to do something, you are leaping, and then in that void that you feel, it's when your creativity then comes to the fore. And well, for me at least, the best way to do anything is to begin writing at that point. Whatever you write, you can change, you can edit, you can modify later, but once you feel that need to leap into something, then you should begin writing. That's how I do it, at least.
Habit and practice helps a lot.
If I can jump in quickly, there was an author, I can't remember who it was, that said that writing a book is like driving a car down a very dark road, and you can't see what's coming up except for the next 2 meters, 3 meters, and you just have to trust that there's going to be a road, and you just do whatever you can see and keep going, and in the end you'll have a story.
And then keep looking at the rear view and edit a lot.
Yes. Edit a lot.
Yeah, I have a question to Gail.
Yes.
You write dark fiction. I love reading dark fiction. When is your book coming out?
So, yeah, that is Mario. Thanks, Mario. I have a bunch of short stories that I'm currently working on, and hopefully within the next 2 years there might be a book, but I don't want to eat my words. I don't have the appetite for that. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Mario, that was exactly my question when I read Eucharist, but a little different. I just messaged Gail, I'd never met her, and told her how much Eucharist had impressed me and said, can you tell me anything you've published so that, I can read more of yours? And then she said, no.
I think Eucharist can become a book. Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential to do Eucharist. Yeah, I have a question for Tino and Shivranjana.
Well, we get to the mic.
Thank you.
Yes, Rita.
Yeah, good morning. Wonderful session. See, both of you were the editors for the anthology, and that's no mean task. See, when you're editing somebody's book, you know the mind of that person, and you get into it and you understand
how that person is thinking, and so you edit the flow, structure, everything in a particular manner. But when you have so many diverse minds thinking in diverse ways, and how did both of you, it's a momentous task for which, of course, I have to definitely congratulate you all. But how did you all even get into it, and how did you do it? Because, you know, each one, it's a task to understand how they are thinking and why they have written what they have written. So I would like from both of you totally try to understand how you did
I'll
it.
just try to respond to that. Thank you so much, Rita, for your. But I think you've actually praised us, or at least me, more than you ought to have. You know what we did actually. I do agree that if you're editing one person's work, you get into that framework, the mindset of that person, and it's more difficult here. But what we did really was we divided the work between the two of us. Shivranjana took some pieces, and I took some of them. But we also shared all the pieces to between both of us. So though one was the chief anchor editing a particular piece, the other also could comment. Then comments were sent to the author, the writer of that piece. But what we did really was ultimately we decided that the final decision of we would only suggest modifications, but the final decision would be that of the writer, of the author. We didn't actually push and say, no, this is what we as editors feel and we won't budge. No. I mean, we were all part of a group. We were part of Goa Writers, everyone, and we had just volunteered for this. So I think we went past that requirement of having to think like the writer by leaving that final decision with the writer. Shivranjana, you can add.
I think to add to that, I like listening to people a lot. Like that's something that I personally do enjoy. So I think editing really was an opportunity to listen to the fancies and the worlds of different people coming in and responding to the word. And therein was a sense of joy to kind of think together, brainstorm together where needed. There were many pieces where people had written something so tight and so good that you really, all you could do was just go gaga over it. But I think there were cases where there was a lot of debating also that did happen. And that is obviously never easy because writing is a vulnerable process. And when you're offering up your writing to somebody, you are extending trust. So I think personally for me also, and I know that for Tino as well, that we took that trust as really, really important and valuable. And how could we honor that is what we approached our process through. So I think that helped overall.
Thank you.
Prashant. Well, we have about 7 or 8 minutes, so we'll take questions for another couple of minutes. And after that, we'll have our formal launch, and then we have to wind up. Prashant.
No, this is a question for the two editors again. I was just curious, because obviously Penguin were the publishers, and typically the team at the publisher's house will often have a big say in the selection of stories and the editing as well. I was just wondering, you obviously provided a much more camera-ready kind of copy. So what was the process like with the editors at Penguin and the team there? Other books I've published they've done the cover, they've done a lot of the proofreading, they've done a lot of that kind of thing.
Would you like to respond?
I think I would say that the publishers were very happy that they were putting out an anthology and they had to deal with just 2 people. I think that was a great blessing for them and they were very excited by that possibility. Second, it was talking about Goa. Goa has, for good, bad, ugly reasons, captured the minds and fancies and attentions of everybody outside of Goa as well. And I think speaking of the editorial process, Goa Writers has been supported by regional publishing houses and people who are publishers, and that's been a very core ethos and value system here. With this anthology, we wanted to be very careful in how we still respect that, but we take up space outside as well. And what would that look like would basically be that we've done the editing, we have a manuscript for you, the editing suggestions that you have would probably be maybe structure or maybe a few comments here and there wherein you need clarification. It couldn't be you flattening and you kind of deciding what each piece should read like. And I think they were really, really collaborative with that, because that sense of this is a group of writers who've already done the process of editing over a year. That saves labor as well. But then at the same time, they were also open to the fact that, okay, we'll come in and we'll give you a certain perspective, which sometimes helps because we'd spent a year already with the book. So they offered some comments, they offered some questions, and ultimately in cases where maybe the questions were specifically for the writer, all we had to do was really take it back to the writer, get those answered, and move on from there. So, yeah.
Okay. May I now invite all the contributors to please bring your copy of Appetite and come here for a group photograph. Okay. Is Bhai here? Yeah, please get Bhai. And Alex, has Alex come? No. Alex hasn't come. Okay, anyway. All contributors. I think there were 20 contributors here of the 33. Any contributor has not got their complimentary copy? We can stand in 2 rows here. Yeah. Actually, some down and some on top. I think 2 rows, depending. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great. Anita, come. I've given you my copy? No. Just remind me. I was going to sit at his feet, but anyway, I'll sit this side. I'll sit here 1 minute. Okay, come. There are. Don't do Can you come on one side? World record gas photograph. Everyone here? Okay. Everyone look at Mike. Please clear the hall and sign.